Yeah, the film came out in 2008, 11 years ago. And yeah, Avengers Endgame, it's already done. And yeah, I guess no one cares anymore. But I do. And cut! Let's go again. The film Thor looks at the definition of a hero and then expands it. Thor is a warrior and a god, a most successful soldier. There are enough war films and war heroes for that to be enough in itself. But the film wants to take the concept of the established hero and push it further. Thor seems to me to be a story of discovering the second part of completeness, wholeness. Here's an equation for life that I've mentioned before, I'm sure in some video. You must try and hold these three states simultaneously to find completeness. You are the center of your own universe. You are a supporting player in someone else's universe. In the greater scheme of the universe, it doesn't really matter. If we look at the first concept, you are the center of your own universe. The key word here is own, not universe. It means that you construct something of your own from within you. You fill yourself up. You fully flesh out who you are. That means how you define yourself, what you stand for, what you will stand for, where your boundaries are, and what your purpose is in life. And being the center of it means that you accept that you are responsible for all aspects of it. You develop your self-esteem and self-confidence rather than relying on the esteem or belief in your abilities given to you by others. You decide that you have control of everything within your own universe. The limiting factor to this is simply mastery. At the beginning of the film, Thor embodies the first part of this idea. Thor is the center of his universe. We meet Thor on the day of his anointing, at the apex of his crowning moment. He is self-congratulatory as he celebrates his own success. The story of Thor circulates around the idea of what is worthy. Worthy is an interesting word. Now, Essop's dictionary defines it as intrinsically of worth. It indicates value. What does it take to make someone worthy? Are we all valuable just by nature of being human? Animal rights activists will have a problem with this one. If not by just being a human, then does just fully mastering being the center of your own universe, i.e. the first part of the equation, make you worthy? Apparently not, because Thor has that and can't lift the hammer. What makes a person valuable? Is worthiness earned through achievement, i.e. the things that we do? And if so, what achievements? Or is it realizations, or even levels of enlightenment, i.e. things we think? Here's a thought. Is it more self-reflective? Does it just mean valuable to ourselves? Worthy then becomes the idea that I am enough. I am good enough. The belief that you are worthy is an indication of your own self-esteem. But is just being valuable to yourself enough? Does it require you to share that value and act on it? Does the act of sharing make you valuable to yourself and others? Thor has a very loving, kind mother and a god as a father. Thor is extremely high both on self-esteem and self-confidence. Self-esteem is who you think you are. I am, fill in the blank. Self-confidence is what you think you can do. I can, fill in the blank. His self-confidence is continually bolstered by his physical achievements in war, which then feeds back into who he thinks he is. In most hero stories, the hero struggles with one of these two aspects. The hero's journey is to fill or overcome the deficits of one of these. But the story of Thor explores the idea of what happens when these are not the limiting factor. In fact, what happens when they're overflowing? Aristotle wrote of the golden mean. He posited that every virtue taken to an extreme in either direction could become a vice. Example: bravery is good. Too much is reckless. Too little is cowardly. As a film, Thor looks at the idea of high self-esteem and high self-confidence and wonders what would happen if they were not the limiting factor for the hero. What would happen if they weren't a deficit, but were an overabundance? I do wonder if that's why not so many people connected with this film, but connected far more strongly with the later versions of Thor. It's just not as common to find people who say, you know what my problem is? I'm just too goddamn good at everything. Thor's justified confidence as a warrior is unjustified in the new role he seeks as a king, though. And this is because the arena is different. The battlefield involves mastering domination and subjugation of the enemy. Thor is a master of that. But he wants to take this methodology into his way of ruling as a king. And being a king and a successful ruler is not just about vanquishing enemies. It's about nurturing a people, making alliances, and holding the peace. A child's esteem, what the child thinks of themselves, comes both from the mother and father. A father who gives true self-esteem to their child will manifest in the child having pride in who they are. A mother who gives true self-esteem to their child will manifest in the child having high levels of nurture. A father who gives corrupted love or takes self-esteem from their child will manifest in the child feeling shame. A mother who gives corrupted love or takes self-esteem from their child will manifest in the child being cruel. Now, when I say father and mother, it doesn't have to be that sex. It's the energy that the person has. Both of Thor's parents have fed into his self-esteem, but his invincibility in war has corrupted him. Too much of a good thing is bad. The invincibility that he's shown in war has corrupted his pride into arrogance and corrupted his nurture into cruelty. And so he's cast out of the heavens and left on earth to learn the lessons that the vulnerability of being mortal gives. The Buddhists have a belief that life is suffering. As a god, Thor has not known suffering. The first film gives Thor his first taste of suffering and shows suffering to be, in this film, a healing and improving force. Some suffering allows us to connect to our humanity, and in his case, it literally does, because he is stripped of his godlike status and has to live as a human. There might also be a slight parallel with the idea that some believe that before birth, we're in a perfect state of being. We are born, as in blasted out of that perfection and cast down to earth, to learn the harsh lessons that this world has to offer. If we successfully learn, then we ascend again enlightened. Mjolnir becomes a physical representation of his worthiness. The physical test of whether he is spiritually good enough comes from him being able to lift it. It's a wonderful idea. Imagine if there was a test you could take each morning to determine whether you were good enough or whether you're out of balance and needed to correct yourself. Thor is challenged and vanquished physically at first. He's defeated by a car, twice, and by a drug.
March for the mighty!
He's defeated strength-wise by the restraints and has to find another way other than just brute force. It's a great double bluff that his ultimate prowess as a fighter precedes his most crushing blow though. His greatest suffering and the largest trauma is served by finding out that he is no longer worthy to lift the hammer. Not because he is human, but because he has developed traits that stop him from being a hero. His father makes the lifting of the hammer conditional on being worthy, but in leaving it open as to what counts as worthy, it's letting the cosmos decide what act counts. That experience is great enough that he immediately starts to change. The pain is obvious and palpable. Cataclysmic pain is a powerful reason to change. Loki then adds to his suffering by explaining that Thor's previous actions when a god effectively killed his father and his mother has exiled him. This means that Thor feels shame for what he's done, and the belief that his mother is now punishing him makes him become more nurturing. He becomes more nurturing and not cruel because his mum was loving. If his mum was cruel, this may well have turned him cruel to try to please her. Thor keeps his promise to try and return Jane's belongings. He's learning the virtue of a simple promise. In Asgard, he disobeyed his father. He apologizes and forgives Loki for tricking him, taking his responsibility rather than taking the moral high ground and looking to fight. He's also brave enough to sacrifice himself and be vulnerable. Not only because he's mortal, but emotionally vulnerable. That emotional vulnerability is brave. He's embraced the concept of high-mindedness. He's sacrificing for those he can save. He's fully realized the second part of the equation of the value of being a supporting player in someone else's universe. In this case, the townsfolk.
But these people are innocent. Taking their lives will gain you nothing. So take mine and end this.
And it's this act that brings Mjolnir back to it. The film is telling us that being good enough is about having enough self-esteem, enough love, and being so full and abundant that you actually have a reserve of it that flows over to others. The excess, if you keep it inside, will corrupt you and make you narcissistic. The excess love you have for yourself needs to flow out of you so others can receive it. Thor has mastered the second part of the equation. You judge that your self-esteem is high enough when you have so much you can spare some to show kindness and sacrifice for others. That shows you to be worthy. Thor has mastered the second part of the equation. The third act of the film is Thor taking the lessons that he's learned on Earth and reapplying it back on Asgard. He's matured from the boy who wanted to destroy Jotunheim to the man who is willing to take the pain and sacrifice his own fledgling romantic relationship with Jane Foster to save the Frost Giants, his sworn enemy of Jotunheim. And so we're left at the end of the first film with Thor no more king than he was when he started, but having acted like a king twice by saving a town and a realm. We are aware though that his heroism comes at a personal cost. In this respect, the parallel already exists that likens Thor to another soldier who saves a nation at his own personal cost. Steve Rogers. Loki is similarly on a journey to prove himself worthy and show his value. The difference is that Loki found out that his biological father, Laufey, left him to die as a baby. despite having the same princely advantages that Thor had. To me, the film is saying that finding out that his biological parents did not want him warps his understanding of the loving bond and crushes his self-esteem. In his case, he becomes cruel and genocidal, mistakenly thinking that he can prove his worthiness by killing rather than saving. He seeks revenge on his father, Laufey. Revenge is doing an act in the present fueled by anger to try and correct a past that is already past. Hence why it's called the past. And makes the same mistake that Thor makes at the beginning of the film by thinking that a king shows worthiness by killing. Now I know that revenge is low-minded and all, but I love it. Ain't nothing gonna change that. The fact that both sons came to this conclusion suggests that it might not be the wise words that Odin is heard to say to the boy that is as important as the way Odin has acted throughout their lives. Odin is a warrior first and became a king second, making him a warrior king at heart. Actions speak louder than words. They both seem to think that they must prove themselves in the destruction of war to win his approval. To me, this film tries to expand the definition of high self-esteem, worthiness, as the ability to balance your own interests with those of others. If you just cater to your own interests, if you spend all your time simply as the center of your own universe, this will lead you to developing narcissistic traits. And if you seek your worthiness from outside of you, in Loki's case, from his father, you'll become villainous. The antidote to this is to love yourself enough, so much that the overflow allows you to simultaneously accept that you are also a supporting player in others' universes and let it flow to them. This will develop your empathy for others. You will then have the ability to access both states when needed. Well, that's what I see when I watch Thor. Hope this helps. Bust me a thumbs up if you like this type of thing. Not so much for algorithmic purposes, but more so I'll know if I'm worthy. Oh, and also, because let me tell you something. Have you said in the comments, babe? Give that bell hell. And if you like my vibe, please subscribe.